My colleague Isaac Kofi Agyei, who is a data analyst with our research desk, joins me in studio to break down the figures for us further, especially with the fascinating details about herring, which is in the food inflation bracket, but leading in terms of the rate so far.
So, Ernest, if you look at this chart, somewhere around last year, this same time, July inflation was 9%. Now, just a year on, we've moved from 9% to 31.7%. And you know that the government has a target of 8 plus or minus 2. And so with this rate of 31.7%, it means we've moved more than 4% away from our target of 8 plus or minus 2. But this is the interesting story when we do the disaggregation. So bread, herrings, which we call amane, and if you're a Ghana, mangbi, and other, things like payments for rent. So if you look at bread, for instance, if you compare last year July to this year July, it means the price of bread has gone up at least, and this is the at least situation, 56.1%. That's for bread. And for those who consume amane or mangbi or, herrings, it has gone up by 51.3% from last year July to this year July, And payments for rent is number 3 with 46.4%. We also have, bars, church fares being 42.3%. And the least being, fish in general being 32.5%. But the fascinating thing is that some of the key drivers of the inflation, the headline inflation of 31.7% are bread, herrings, amane, payments for rent, bars, church fares, and then fish. But Ernest, if you look at the usual suspects that whenever we release inflation figures, we actually see them, we have grapes and then diesel and petrol, which we call fuel. They've also all gone up by more than 100%. But this is actually the 4th time in a row this year. So in the past 5 years, we've never seen this occurring. We are seeing imported inflation be more than the local inflation. So right from April to July, we've seen imported inflation be more than the local inflation that we see. But if you do a regional breakdown, then you see how dire the situation is in some regions. So the deeper the red in terms of the color gradient, the higher the rate. So if you check from the north to the south, you can see that inflation is fairly okay in the north, somewhere close to the headline inflation, or sometimes even below the headline inflation. So upper east being the least with 15.7% in terms of food inflation. This is not the headline inflation. This is actually food inflation because we are focusing analysis on food. So we have upper west 33.8%. But if you look at the region in terms of the middle belt, we have Bronga, half of the Ashanti region, all recording inflation somewhere around 29%. But in the south, that is where the situation actually is a bit dire. So western region having 44.8%.
So you see western region painted all red, Kofi. All red. And that's quite interesting. Yeah. And just not to take the wind out of the sail, but I see the Greater Accra. I mean, I was just looking out for that. But I see it is yellow in color, meaning that we have more inflation, food inflation in the western region than in the Greater Accra region.
And we said that some of the key drivers is fish. So if you look at the coastal areas, and as you can see, the inflation is high in the coastal areas where we have, this fish and other things going up. But in the African region, okay, so when we talk about inflation, usually we have 2 outliers. We have South Sudan and Zimbabwe being outliers, all having inflation rates more than, 100%. But if you take them out and you rank the entire, continent, Ghana is the penultimate when it comes to inflation, at least last but one with 31.7%.
And that is because there's Zambia, which is also on the extreme.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Kofi, for bringing us those details.